are so lucky to. Is this on? We are so lucky to have this conversation today with Mimi Kennedy and with you, Katie Aselton. We're going to talk about the art of acting and the art of creating memorable characters. And you can see why these two were selected for this panel. I want to introduce my co-host here. This is Amanda Mai. She's one of our festival producers and an actor as well. So we're really excited to talk to you about this. Um, I think we should just dive right in.
Let's go.
I want to know from Mimi, what is it like now creating characters in the state that things are in Hollywood in terms of being a more mature woman and the roles that are offered and what your options have been like? And I just want to know that piece before we get into the actual part of creating characters.
Aha. Okay. Well, I will start with the verb, the roles being offered, because not so many. John Lithgow said it very well. He said, "You'd be surprised at how little deciding goes on in an actor's life. We wait around for people to want us." So you are a people pleaser from womb to tomb to a certain degree. And therefore, what it's like is that I have had to go on people pleasing to some extent. But at my age, um, I am able to decide among the options of how the marketplace sees older women. And I have a standing joke with my manager: I won't be naked, nor will I be slashed to death, nor will I swallow a child whole. All of which I have been offered, and at various times. So when I see things, it's relationships. So that Chuck Lorre sitcom, I had been Abby on Dharma and Greg, and he said, "You just seemed like family." And I did Reiki on Jenna Elfman when I first auditioned, put my hands right on her and did a Reiki, and they loved that. So it's tiny decisions at a certain moment that create relationships with people who then see you in a light that makes you want to be with them when they do make the offer. And then there are huge years and swaths of not working. And I was just talking with you about how then you write or you direct or you continue to express what you think a woman is in this culture. That's what you have to do as an artist.
I asked that question because I overheard some of the conversation earlier. And Katie, you had some interesting things to say about creating your own path as a director because of some of the issues that particularly women face as we age in this industry.
Yeah, look, it's uh, a funny thing to age in Hollywood, when everything does feel so incredibly out of our own control, um, because there's just fewer and fewer roles, and then the roles that they're offering you are not great, and so it is fun to sort of approach it from a different angle and say, well, I can tell a story. I have stories to tell. And then you get to really be a part of like just cracking open a whole new world and a new perspective. A lot of I mean, and expressing our frustrations with the lack of interesting roles, then you're like, well, I have the power, so I can create whatever woman I want and whoever I want to be, which is exciting.
What is your go-to in terms of gosh, can I speak? Preparation for a character. Lawrence and I were recently watching a new series, I think it's on Apple Plus, called Government Cheese. And we had had the submission of Magic Hour for the festival. And it took me a solid minute to realize it was you in that role. And I thought, wow, okay, this really has to be a conversation we have at the festival. What was your take on creating the role of that character on Government Cheese? Because it's so different from other things I've seen you in.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's really I think when you receive a script and had the characters built out, for me personally, I think there's a lot of actors who build something from the ground up, but for me, I think you get to sort of like explore all the dusty corners of yourself and areas that you don't get to touch in your daily life. And um Magic Hour was similar in that way of exploring a side of me that I know is there and I've never tapped into. And Government Cheese was that as well. It's like a woman who isn't seen and appreciated and able to live the life that she knows that she's capable of and is, put sort of in a little box by her husband. So but it's really anytime as an actor you look at these roles and you're just like, oh, I relate. And I think it's what you do as an audience member too. It's why you connect with characters because you're like, I see myself in her or him. And I connect so deeply with that emotion. And you don't even know why, but it's because there is something in you that just makes that connection. So I think the only words I can put it, it's like it is the dusty corners, like where all the dog hair goes and escapes your broom. But it's like our bodies and our hearts and our souls have that as well, where we sort of things get brushed away and tucked, and we forget they're there until you find a character that's like, oh, shines a light, and you're like, oh, there's so much dog hair in that corner. There's so much emotion pent up and like hiding, and like, let's go see what that is.
Uh-huh. Same question. I'm looking at you and just thinking about how women. This is very personal, but you're a beautiful woman and a beautiful young girl, and I'm sure that put you in a box, and that's why dog hairs went in the corner because you couldn't do that. And my admiration is massive for your generation of women, young women now becoming more mature. Like we used to say, Europe can do it. You can be a mature woman in Europe the way you can't in America. That was once upon a time far more true than it is today. And I think you're a wonderful example of the new generation of women in film. But then we come to how I approached becoming a character. And from a very young age, I remember having what somebody said, you have a mature face. I can't cast you as the ingenue or, whatever was available. And so I was aware that I had to put on a costume to become a character actress. And I could mimic any voice, Mimi K, mimic. It's all very karmic, but I knew how to mimic voices. Hairdos and clothing were very important to me. I would put on something and become not me. And that was my approach. Now, then I went to New York in the 70s, and it was all about being yourself. And I remember being in an audition for a country western musical, and I sang something about, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? And the guy stopped, and he said, Mimi, why do I feel you're putting on the dog? And I thought, putting on the dog, I'd never heard that. Putting on the Ritz, I knew, but not putting on the dog. He meant I wasn't being myself. Just be yourself. And I felt like, well, if I sing this song like a girl from upstate New York, I'm not going to get in your musical. So why would I come here and audition that way? But it was an opening for me to understand myself, which was also part of this whole artist's journey. And then I went and took some very good classes from Kurt Dempster and learned Sanford Meisner method. But Stella Adler had me in class before that. And she critiqued like my first effort. She went up to me and she went, you're the kind of actress who plays the costume, aren't you? And I thought, yeah, yeah. well, yeah, I'm playing a Puritan in this 18th century. Yeah. And anyway, it wasn't looked upon kindly. Now I'm doing more indie movies. I'm doing more who I am. Marjorie is definitely me, angry, sad, recovered, all of it. Mentoring people, being a mother that she wished she'd been to her kids. So I am now using myself and grateful for that early training to know who that was. But mimicry is still, I played Ann Landers in a wig, and she had a lateral S. Did you know that? Both her and Abby, dear Abby, her twin, they both spoke like this. And a friend came, it's a one woman show, and a friend came to the show and she said, I thought we were in the wrong place. It was halfway through the thing that I knew it was you on stage. And that's a great tribute. And I've done more work like that lately, which I really enjoy. Long answer to a short.
That's a great
Oh.
answer.
I would love to hear, didn't mean to do that. I would love to hear from both of you in regards to, I don't know that as actors there's ever one dream role, but I feel like there may be a dream message that we want to portray and express to the world. And so what is your dream character and message that you would want to portray and share with the world?
Look, I think that women are endlessly fascinating, and I think we are only starting to scratch the surface with really, really interesting female characters. So I just want to keep going, and I want dirtier and messier, and I want unpleasing women. I want people to be like, like I don't want to be likable. I'm so sick of that note of like, well, that character's not likable. And I'm like, most people I meet aren't likable. People in general, for the most part, aren't likable. So why would my character be likable? Like, I just want to keep playing characters that are just a flippin' mess and are trying to do their best and figure it out, but are gonna make mistakes and step in poo poo. And like just be real and honest and interesting, and because of that, then kind of inspiring, because it's cool to aspire to be someone who's imperfect. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. The image, the old image is.
Stewart in something. I would love to play Martha Stewart, who is like the messiest.
You would be so good as Martha Stewart. Oh, listen to that. That gotta happen. Do you remember there was a mock cookbook whose title was Martha Stewart Entertains Better Than You? And it was great. It was,
I think I still have a copy of that
yeah, I
book.
think I do too. Okay, keep it until she's doing the Martha Stewart
I'll send it to
story.
you.
Yeah, okay. I've been a peace activist all my life, and I studied nonviolence with Reverend James Lawson because he was a Methodist minister in Los Angeles teaching on Saturday mornings for free at his Methodist church once a month. And after the millennium 2000, when I sensed the culture all wanted the rapture, they wanted Armageddon, they wanted it all to end. They were sick of it. Let's get it over with. Invaded Iraq, I don't care. Get it over with. It was like premature ejaculation. They didn't want to bear the feelings. And so my husband and I went and studied with Reverend James Lawson, and we learned a lot about nonviolence. And one of the things that one of the students said we would offer our comments, and she said, I've been trying to convince people at work that this war is wrong, and I have learned that convincing someone else that they are wrong and I am right can be a violent act. That blew my mind. And so, as an artist, what I want to do is plunge people into the depths of their sorrow, their pain, and their joy, sexuality, grief, all of it, so that we know we carry in our bodies this great drama that we keep trying to work out on each other, thereby killing each other, being cruel to each other, choosing each other to love, and it's just an infatuation that 3 children later breaks everybody's hearts. I want, if I could, to make people love themselves as dramatic creatures involved in a great experiment while they're alive on this earth, and to respect the earth while they're doing it.
It's beautiful.
The other question that I had, oh, this is what it was do you feel that as actors that there's an opportunity to be more honest through acting than what there is in regular interactions with people on a daily basis?
Absolutely, because they're not my words. So I can say them in a way where I'm, in real life, I am a pleaser and I'm polite and I was raised well. And so I'm not going to say the hard things that are sometimes written by me for myself. But like that's the fun of it, right? Like there's a beautiful opportunity to get to step in someone else's shoes and be totally honest as that character in a way that like I would like my character on the League, which is like a ridiculous like comedy, like raunchy, silly comedy, and my character is, a woman. Um, but I got to say things that were like so outside of like anything that Katie ever gets to like say. Um, talked about how proud I was of my vagina. I had vaginal hubris and like, what a joy. And I encourage everyone, anyone with a vagina, to just experience it for just a minute, just to talk about how much you love it and how beautiful you think it is. Like, well, that's cool. But that, having those types of moments is really fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, you're reminding me. My husband is gonna crawl under the seat, but we did vagina monologues. Have you done vagina monologues? Oh, well, I'm gonna get your number. Next time somebody wants me to do vagina monologues, we'll call. But it that is an example of doing things, saying things on stage that one would not attempt to in real life. And I remember I never knew about that play until a gay friend of mine said, and so vagina monologues. And I went, what's that? They went, oh, Mimi, you haven't read it. It's revolutionary. And indeed it was all over the world. Eve Ensler still got V-Day, really releasing people and cultures and men from shame. She changed the world with that one. I just want to go to, I'm a writer too, but I have learned that it is true. You can say truths in fiction that you cannot say as yourself. In fact, increasingly, because I was an actress all my life and that's all I wanted to be, my own particular story is only interesting psychologically as a template for my generation. But what I actually did is saying, then I got this role and then I got that role. It's not that exciting. And so people keep going, oh, do a second memoir. And I went, the first memoir I did was the psychological and spiritual journey. And that was important. And the second might be about activism. But so I'm just saying truths can be said in fiction. And now in our present world, where people are being punished for saying what they mean, even online, and they will find you with word counts. I'm just waiting for the knock on my door, but not really, but maybe. Anyway, I think about how the theater Václav Havel changed Czechoslovakia with the Velvet Revolution, whereas in Romania they hung Ceausescu. It was violent, and it didn't work out as well. In Czechoslovakia, the nonviolence and the theater convinced the culture and did a much better job of changing history there. So I think that means theater and writing, we might be at that point where that's how we're going to do some of this, make some changes. And so I guess the answer was, yeah, you can say some truths, just like Katie. There's some things you can say when you're acting. that are a little more truthful, even though they're disguised as fiction.
I love that. Beautiful. Thank you, Mimi. You mentioned studying Meisner in New York,
Yes.
and I'm fairly new to acting, maybe 10 years now. Meisner was life changing.
Life changing.
It gets you out of your own way, and I wish I'd discovered it in my 20s.
Amen.
I'm curious, both of you, what your journey has been like in study, and what your waterfall moments were in terms of discovering yourself as an actor.
The Meisner method, it's you have to sit opposite someone else and do something called the word game, and you just say words and you respond. I don't think I ever did it well. I had a lot of thinking in the way, but it taught me to listen to the other actor and only be looking at the other actor. And you can see by how long I go on with my answers how unfamiliar I was with doing that. But that that was the watershed moment for me. And someone asked me, did I like doing a one woman play? And I said, God help me, I loved it. So I think that's why it's going to writing now. But I had some terrible acting teachers who are just about preference. They would teach you with praise and scorn, and it's very damaging and it sort of leads nowhere. But I had to do it because every time I was on stage reciting memorized lines, being a character, I was doing what I loved. So I learned by trial and error. And I look back sometimes and I'm just, how did anybody put up with me? How did I even have a career? But it's because I loved it. So I kept doing it even when I was embarrassed. But the Meisner method, as taught by Kurt Dempster, gave me the tools. And then I was free to do it myself.
Yeah, I did a theater program that you learn all the different techniques. And Meisner, I think for me was the most interesting because it really does. It like shuts you up. You're not remembering lines. You're literally just sitting with someone and their breath and their behavior and their eyes and their which is so beautiful, and what a lesson for all of us to just stop and connect with the person that you're talking to and look in their eyes. And that was really sort of it for me. Watershed wise, I had a great moment with one of my favorite teachers, and I was doing a scene and I was angry and I was like laughing, but I was angry in the scene, and she was like, "I don't understand, you're smiling." I said, "I'm from New England. This is how we get mad." This is my most angry face I have. But it really did feel, and she was like, "Wow, that's so incredibly honest in that moment." It was like a really beautiful thing. But there's this thing as you're learning acting, like, that you start trusting your heart and because you realize you're trying less and less and less, and that it's just sort of, so those are the moments that like that all of like the training falls away and you're like, I am just like, and it is like it's the flow, right? Like you have the thing and you're all of a sudden your brain does go away and it's like just your heart, which is really beautiful and very honestly rare. And when it happens, it's the coolest feeling.
Just knowing that you've directed, and we're going to see it, you also then provide the container, and people can trust you to contain their honesty. That's important because as one works through an acting career, one ends up with all kinds of people who don't provide good containers. They have heart, they have inspiration, they really want to do it, and you're in their project and you're giving your best. But it's hard to do what you're talking about because well, I'm thinking, for instance, of that acting teacher who you said the wonderful thing about this. It's New England. This is the way we get angry. And she said, wow, that's honest. I can think of a lot of people who said, what bullshit, and just squash you. You're wrong and that's bullshit. And won't get anywhere. That because
I'm probably my DPs, like my crew probably is like annoyed by 1,000 things because I'm an actor first, but I think for the other actors, I'm like a dream.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm glad when people who know all the jobs do it. It was another bad thing about me as an actress. I didn't know anybody's jobs when I started acting on film because I was used to being on theater where you're thrown into the water in the light and you have to do what you do. Suddenly there's, 80 people around you doing their jobs. And it took me a while to understand that, but I am so grateful. And I'm happy that I was good enough at my job that I learned that those 80 people were often grateful and go, we love a day when you're here because we know it's going to go well. That was the highest praise I could possibly have ever gotten.
I was going to ask, so Katie, you were talking about when you find that magic moment of the flow, right? That we all experience as artists. And sometimes we have to recreate, right? We have to do it again or recreate. And so, kind of two-part question is one, do you, and I'm sure this varies, but is there a certain method that you feel like creating a moment before or just being able to just get super present and be in that moment? How do you best create with or come to that presence, especially if you have
Yeah, if it's look, it depends on what it is, right? But if it is like a comedy and you just want to be as connected with the person around you, right? So, but if it's like emotional, if it's like magic hour, I think it is creating an emotional bubble for yourself that you're just swimming in a little bit. That sort of isn't like between action and cut, but it's sort of like just in the whole time that it's taking to shoot that scene. So you're never leaving it that far, which is wild when you're directing, because you've got a crew of people with you, and they're looking to you to run the ship. So what that requires is so much communication beforehand and creating a beautiful safety net of people around you who know the assignment and know what the goal is in that scene, and you can trust to say, all right, I'm going down. And they're like, okay, we've got it. And who you can also trust to be like, did we get it? And they're like, no, we gotta go again. And so you're like, okay, uh, okay. It's more like that. Yeah, but it's less of like I am not trained enough to be like can I tell the Elizabeth Moss story about her heartbeat? So Mark, my husband, did a movie with Elizabeth Moss called The One I Love, and our friend was the sound guy. And Lizzie is an incredible actress, but it's like a heavy, dark movie and like really intense. But between takes, would be like la di da, hoo doo doo, like making goofy jokes and like joking around with Mark. And then they'd be like, "All right, cameras up, uh, let's roll sound." And Sean, the sound guy, was like, brought Mark over between takes, and he's like, "You got to listen to this. Her heartbeat changes as like they're getting the camera. Like, so this is like that's like real trained acting. I don't do that. But there's like that is a skill that like she just would like her heartbeat like slowed down and like she just got in the moment in that moment. And that is why she has won so many Emmys. And that is why Mimi and I haven't.
Oh my God, I got to learn more. I'm just too old to learn that, but I have to learn more. Wow. Uh-huh. It's kind of, I'm trying to slow my heart rate just to see if I can do it. Um, the thing I do most now is invoke or invite the spirit of the person I'm playing or the person closest to the person that I'm playing. I have a lot of personal ghosts because of my how old I am. So many people I know are on the other side of the grass. And when I play like Ann Landers or I played a suffragist Matilda Jocelyn Gage, which I wrote some plays to get her biography more known and eastern part of the United States, I put my hands up and I breathe and I leave my stuff. And then I invite that spirit to just say, whatever I'm doing this. I got a body that's doing this now. That's supposedly you. So I invite you to take hold and, and we'll tell them whatever you would like them to know. My invitation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that. Thank you. I think doing the heartbeat thing would be really good. That's more technical and new generation approach. Yeah.
Maybe hypnotherapy would help with that.
Yes. All right. I'll
I
be
think
talking to you.
so. But Mimi, I'm so glad that you spoke to that because that was actually my next question was if either of you ever feel as a writer, and I know that you write and create as well, do you ever feel like it's a channeling? Like you're channeling that story and you're channeling that character. So that that was really great to hear.
Yes. Yeah, that. And I'm not scared of it, because we all know it's pretend. Sean Penn said the best thing once at a political event that I was at, and there were a lot of political people in the audience. And he said, at least when we're actors, we know we're lying.
Yeah, look, I think I've only played one real person. But even then there was like no account because she went into witness protection. Um, so I have yet, but I, the whole goal is always to create someone completely whole and real, right? So you're just channeling like a it's not channeling a spirit for me yet, although that sounds so fun, and I will do that. But there is just like filling out the spirit, so it's more of just from the inside.
It's about knowing the time and place, the um, what's the season, how many children do you have, how many husbands have you had, what is your house like, do you hate your kitchen? It's all of those little details that you think through, and then you have to let it go, and then you just fade right into the character, and it's magical when you can let go and just become.
I want to speak to that when we're done.
Go ahead.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. I was 24 years old and I was asked to audition because of a relationship I was having with someone in New York, which now would be a Me Too situation. So it was sketchy from the get-go. But I auditioned, and for Elaine Navazio, Act One, Last of the Red Hot Lovers. Cynthia Harris did a brilliant job with it on Broadway. But it was a tour, and nobody wanted to do it, and they needed somebody. And so I put on falsies and a wig, and I did it. I acted it, I know, with an accent. I had no idea what I was doing. I was almost fired. Sid Caesar was so kind to me, and the last thing he said to me was, "Go to acting school." But he never fired me. However, I wrote a backstory for that character that was about 10 pages long and would have surprised Neil Simon, I'm sure. So, it's a youth. It was my young person thinking, I'm going to know this character. And so I was on the right track, but it had nothing to do with giving the right performance on stage because I didn't know how to do it yet. But I was funny, at least. And with Sid Caesar, we created something. But whew, I look back and I still flush with embarrassment.
Sometimes it is just about the job. Like sometimes you can go and do the template, but you're like also like I know what you need here, and I didn't write a backstory for Jenny from the League. I was like, oh, you need a mouthy broad who's going to go toe to toe. I can do that. Yeah.
Do either of you have a certain ritual or practice to celebrate your accomplishments and your projects and when you've finished them?
No. I immediately go to what I'm never going to work again. Like that's my ritual. That is my celebration. I hate myself. This is awful. I'm never going to work again. I'm so stupid. What was I thinking?
Oh, similar. We're so alike, we actresses. But not before I've done a mental trip to Sardi's And everyone has applauded, and I'm brought champagne to my table. Mentally.
After Magic Hour, because Magic Hour, the film that's playing tomorrow, which I hope you all come and see, was a movie that Mark and I wrote together. And it took a while for it to sort of, for us, from when we finished the treatment for it to when we finally filmed it. And it really it came from a place of like the business is falling apart. Everything is awful. Nothing is selling out. Nothing is getting financed. Nothing is getting bought from film festivals. Like no one's going to see anything in a theater. Blah, blah, blah. And so all of a sudden, it really was like a New Year's resolution where I was like, I'm making the friggin' movie this year. I'm just gonna do it, and we're gonna make it really cheap, and we're gonna finance it ourselves, and I'm not going to try and please distributors or film festivals or uh, sales agents. I'm just going to make a weird movie because I need to make it for my heart. And so I did. And we wrapped our 14 days of shooting. And I said, if it's just this, like this will be enough. We had such an incredible experience shooting the movie and making the movie. It was like really like creatively like one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. And so I was like, if it's just this is enough. And that lasted about 5 days. And then I was like, I mean, I hope it goes to a film festival. And we did. We premiered at South by, which was so great. And I was like, we're at South by and celebrating the movie and with the whole crew and the cast. And I was like, if it's just this is enough. And then I was like, well, I hope someone buys it. And they did. So it will go into theaters, which will be really exciting. But there is no we did it. We did the thing and then walk away. Like it is like a spiral of panic uh, and self-hatred.
Well, it's been a really tough time since COVID and the double strikes and streaming, and I am so tired of seeing things on TV on streaming that are dubbed, and I'm like, where's the work? And I love the fact that you went out and just did something for your heart, from your heart, and didn't try to please anybody. I really applaud you. And the film is beautiful. It really, truly is. We have about 2 minutes. Does anybody else want to add anything? Mimi, you look like you're dying to say something.
I'm thinking about what I've heard. I was just so glad people with resources are doing stuff from the heart. The marketplace, that's all I wanted to say. There's a difference between art and the marketplace. And I keep telling my managers, I've been through this before. I went through the 70s. They're always saying half hour is dead, hour long is dead, movies are dead, nobody's going in the theaters. Everything always dies and then comes back. But while the marketplace is readjusting, the important thing is to make the culture better so that we can all see and do and make better stories.
I can't think of a better way to end this than what you just said.